everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it is that time of the year again where Apple announces their new iPhones. They pushed out this invitation recently for an event on September 9th, presumably to announce the new iPhone 16. Once again, it must have went into my spam folder. I couldn't find my invitation, but there will be many others going to see the new iPhone. And right on cue, we're starting to see people on social media posting about the longevity of the batteries inside of their current iPhones, and this gave me an opportunity to take a look at my phone to see how its battery is doing. And of course, we did a similar video last year around this time as well. Let's take a look and see how my battery is holding up. Now, before we dive into this topic, I wanted to let you know that this video is being sponsored by all of you. That includes all of you who watch on a regular basis and have clicked that subscribe button, but also those of you who contribute to the channel on an ongoing basis, either through the YouTube membership program with the button down below, through Floatplane or Patreon, or through my donor box page that you can see at Lon.TV/support. I also recently opened up a merch store if you're into that. And we've got our full disclosure t-shirt along with a number of other items that you can find in the shop. And we've got more coming in all the time. But I do want to thank everyone for their continued support. Viewership is the most important thing at this point to keep the channel going. That engagement really counts. And I want to thank you all for everything you do to keep this channel going. Now, last year, I had my iPhone 14 Pro. And what I found is that at this stage of its life, about a year into its existence, I found that I had 329 cycles on my battery, and my battery capacity was at 89%. On my current phone, which is an iPhone 15 Pro Max that I've been very happy with, especially the quality of its video capabilities. If we go into the battery section here and then click on battery health, you can see that my phone has lost about 8% of its capacity since I bought it about a year ago with less cycles, 278 cycles. The reason why there's less cycles on this phone is that this phone has a bigger battery, a much bigger one actually than the smaller iPhone 15 or 14 Pro models. And so I don't think I have to go through the full cycle as often. And one of the things that I noticed with this phone when I first got it was how great the battery was. But like all of these phones, if you're using it every day and cycling that battery quite frequently, you will start to see a pretty significant drop-off. And we'll talk about some of the factors that contribute to that in a minute. So it's fair to say that probably as we work our way through September and October, we'll be losing about 10% of the overall battery capacity, which is noticeable. I'm starting to notice that my phone isn't getting as far through the day as it used to. Now, in fairness, everyone like me who complains about this issue are power users. We're using our phones constantly to create content, consume content, research topics. I'm on this thing all day long. It's probably not good for me to be on it as much as I am, but it's the nature of my work, and I think that's why this phone is where it is at. Now, like last year, I went over to the Apple battery support page to see what the warranty is now on their current batteries. And to my surprise, I see that Apple is actually making a much more substantial claim as to their battery endurance. So iPhone 14 models and earlier were designed to retain 80% of their original capacity at 500 complete charge cycles under ideal conditions. We'll talk about what ideal conditions means in a minute. But the new phones, the 15 up, are designed to retain 80% after 1,000 complete charge cycles. Why is that? Well, as it turns out, you might remember last year that the European Union put in place a requirement per regulation that phones needed to have user-replaceable batteries because of all these issues that we run into with the batteries dying on the phone and people tossing their phones out to get a new one as a result of the battery being at fault. However, there was a little bit of a carve-out that was put into this regulation that basically exempts Apple from it. So check this out. If the device can maintain a minimum of 80% of its capacity after 1,000 full charge cycles and the device is waterproof, they are totally exempt from the regulation and they can continue building batteries the way they've been doing it now, which means that they are not user replaceable. So although this is now the law of the land in the EU, there's a very big loophole there, enough to drive a MacBook through, that is not going to require any of these companies to have to comply with the replaceable battery requirement, provided they meet all of these bullet points, which it doesn't seem like it'll be that hard for Apple to do. And this is really just about Apple stating what they think the battery can handle. So of course they'll have to make warranty replacements for any battery that falls under that threshold. But how many people are actually going to take them up on that? So it looks like Apple's found a way out of the regulation, and these phones will have hermetically sealed batteries now for the foreseeable future. But I did go over to another page on Apple's support site about how to maximize battery life and lifespan. Why are we seeing these batteries lose so much of their capacity after only a year of use? And really the issue here, I think, is temperatures, especially the temperature of the phone when it's charging. And so what Apple says here is that you should avoid exposing your phone to ambient temperatures higher than 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius, which can permanently damage battery capacity. That means your battery won't power your device as long on a given charge. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. Because a lot of folks, myself included, we charge our phones wirelessly. My car now has a spot where I put my phone that charges it up. And every so often, my phone will actually tell me it's stopping charging because it's getting too hot sitting in that dashboard holder. I've seen that notification happen when I've been outside sometimes with a battery booster going into the phone. And a lot of us also charge with those fast chargers that pump more power in to charge more quickly, but that does bring the temperature up as well. So if you are charging at the minimum amperage, like the old 5-volt, 2-amp, or 1-amp chargers, I think you will have much longer battery longevity by charging slowly as opposed to charging in ways that generate more heat, whether it's wireless, which is notoriously inefficient for generating heat, or some of those fast chargers as well. Apple does have a guide here as to what the best comfort zones are for your device. So they recommend a range between 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 95 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 0 to 35 degrees Celsius. And they also have some recommendations for storage temperature too. So that, I think, is what's driving a lot of this. We are using our phones a lot. We want those phones charged back up quickly or conveniently, and that generates heat, which reduces the overall capacity of the battery over the long run. Another thing Apple says is that cases can be a problem too, because they don't dissipate the heat away from the phone as much as not having a case at all, or having a case that's a little more friendly to thermal issues. So that could also be driving some of this. But there you go. Heat is the enemy on batteries for sure. And if you want to get your battery replaced on the iPhone 15 series here, it'll cost me $100 if I wanted to go in and have my battery swapped out for a new one. At 92%, I think I'm okay. But I saw last year that my the capacity level just dropped pretty quickly once I got below 95%. And I think that's what's going to happen with this one as well. So $100 to replace the battery. No big deal, right? They go and do all the labor for you too. However, there's some fine print. They're going to inspect the product when they receive it, and there might be other issues. In other words, if the phone has a cracked screen or some other problem that they notice, they're going to make you fix that before they fix the battery. So for example, if your back glass is cracked, they're going to charge you $200 to do the glass on top of the $100 to do the battery. If your front screen is cracked, they're going to make you replace that at $379. If the front and back are cracked, $500 plus the next $100. You may as well get a new phone at this point. And there's some, I think, truth to their strategy here that they're always pushing you to buy a new device because they've got a lot of profit margin wrapped up in these things. Now, it's not to say you can't do this work yourself. iFixit.com's got a great guide, but it takes about 40 steps just to get the battery out, let alone replace it with a new one. And you probably need about $200 worth of tools in order to get into the phone in the first place. And if you look at how Apple designs these batteries, they basically take up every open spot in the case that they can with the battery. And I don't think it's feasible ever to have one of these phones with a replaceable battery that can just be snapped out. There are some good examples out there, though, of companies that are trying every once in a while to make something that's easily swappable. So for example, the other day we looked at this 8BitDo Pro 2 controller, and sure enough, inside the battery compartment here, there is a replaceable battery. And I could even use AA's on this controller instead if I want. So there's still a couple of things out there that aren't too hard to replace batteries with, but I think in the long term here, your iPhone, even with these new EU regulations, is not going to allow you to replace that battery easily anytime soon. Let me know what your battery capacity is on your iPhone down in the comments section. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.